Hello everyone, and welcome to Fictional Vortex. So we are back with an interesting series on what if Naruto had the power of two titans in Bleach Universe. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Naruto panted as he stared across the sacred valley. He stood on top of the ruined statue of the Shodaime Hokage, Senju Hashirama. His opponent was standing on top of the battered statue of Uchiha Madara. Naruto nearly cried as he looked across at his opponent. His best friend, his brother in arms. Sasuke Uchiha, the last of the fallen Uchiha clan. It was as if destiny declared that these two would face off, much like Senju and Madara. Naruto was in every way except blood, the heir of the Senju clan. Adopted by Tsunade, instilled with the will of fire by Sarutobi Hiruzen, taught by the greatest of the Sannin, Jiraiya, and loved the village to the bottom of his heart, he had been the lowest of the low and worked his way to the prestigious title of Nanodaime Hokage. Sasuke was the last of the Uchiha clan and his blood was the truest in all of the Uchihas that had lived. He was the elite of the village and raised in the lap of luxury. He was adored by all, but his hard heart desired one thing, the death of his brother and revenge for his clan. He desired power beyond all things. Power to avenge the Uchiha clan. To achieve this, he betrayed his village, went to a mad scientist for power, killed his own mentors, slain his own brother, and soon his own ancestor to take up the mantle of the Akatsuki. He possessed nearly all of the tailed beasts and only the Ikibi, Hachibi, and Kyuubi remained out of his reach. He tried to take them by force and even released the bijus he had collected on his former home. Konoha and her allies had fought desperately to save their village, but one by one, the heroes of their village fell. Tsunade died defending the hospital from the Sanbi, using her hidden skill in water jutsus to defend the hospital against the huge tsunamis and storms the Sanbi created. She sacrificed her life to destroy it by a well-placed punch in the middle of its forehead, cracking open its skull and causing it to vanish. The valiant green beasts of Konoha had been the next ones to die for the sake of eliminating the Ganbi. The Ganbi sent beams of all the five elements, ravaging the village with pillars of water, air, fire, lightning, and stone. Guy and Lee were the only ones who stood a chance, as they were too fast for the Ganbi to catch. As a last resort, they released all 8 forbidden gates. Lee even went further and unlocked the unknown 9th gate, achieving near godlike status. With blows that shook the earth down to its core, the two men literally ground the Ganbi into submission and it vanished in the wind, never to appear again. The famous Ino-Shika Cho trio of both generations, Kakashi and Kurenai, had eliminated the Yanbi. Both generations had unlocked 3 gates and took the Akamichi pills in a desperate attempt to bind the Yanbi long enough for Kakashi to kill. Kurenai had killed herself in attempting a Tsukiyomi-like genjutsu that had immobilized the demon's mind with the help of Inoichi and Ino. Both Akamichis had grown to their full height and kept it still, along with the Naris Shadow Jutsu. Their attempts were successful in hampering the Yanbi long enough for Kakashi to hit with a jutsu called Susanoo's Spear, a raiden jutsu that called the void to be forcibly open and release an unnatural lightning. The strain on his mutated eye became too much for Kakashi's mind to handle, and after he unleashed the lightning, the blood vessels in his brain blew apart. Both Ino-Shika Cho trios had died in the resulting explosion. Gaara eliminated the Rokubi by crushing it under an iron-plated Hokage mountain. Gaara had called upon his biju's full power along with his unlocked ability of iron sand to crush the Rokubi in the earth. Gaara had sent the Rokubi down inside of a chasm he created, filled with sand and iron, before sealing the Hokage's tower on top of the chasm. The resulting energy, even with the biju's help, was too much and Gaara died in the process, removing the Ikibi and Rokubi from the world. Kiba Inazaka, Shino Aburame, Neji and Hinata Hyuga had sacrificed themselves and their clan in order to put down the Nibi. The Hellcat spat flames of hell at the clans, ruining many of them on contact. It is through the ingenious ability of using all the Kikai to absorb the chakra of the Nibi, the Aizen Juken to close all 2,222 chakra tenketsus, and the fiercest attack of all the Inazakas to vanquish the beast. The Aburames died as the shock of losing their insects was too much for their body to endure. The Hyugas were blinded and most of their chakra coils were burned inside and out. The Inazakas were severely burned and many of them died of their injuries. The Hachibi Jinichiriki, Killer Bee, had eliminated the Nanabi while also protecting the civilians from the initial Biju attack. He took the brunt of the attack and continued to fight even with his wounds against the Nanabi with its multiple illusions and tricks. It all came to an end when Killer Bee pinned the flying beast with his 7 swords and strangled the best to death with his bare hands. The Jinchuriki soon succumbed to his own wounds in the end. The Akatsuki had also sent a humongous army after the Bijus. Even with all the shinobis they had, it couldn't match the sheer amount of men the Akatsuki had. Hypnotized men, mercenaries, pirates, missing nins, every crook and outlaw in the land merged in Konoha to destroy it. The shinobis made sure they paid for it dearly and made so many of them die that when the last shinobi fell, Anko, they ran to the hills, trying to escape any hidden shinobis that might have been hiding for them. Naruto panted and stared at Sasuke with tired and sad eyes. His homeland had been destroyed by the man he valued as his brother beyond all else. His first rival and best friend in the years when he was deemed the demon child. The man who had been deemed an angel was now the devil. "Sasuke, if it means anything, I'm sorry," Naruto called out. "You know me better than anyone else. Konoha betrayed both of us. Why do you fight to save it?" "I protect it to honor the wishes of my loved ones, my comrades, and my parents above all else," Naruto said. "If you can't understand that, then I guess nothing more can be said." "Smartest thing you've ever said, Dobi." Naruto looked across and saw the clouds darken. Naruto closed his eyes and went back to sage mode. He concentrated even deeper and went deep within himself to the Kyuubi's cave. The Kyuubi glared at him with malice and contempt. "You really are going to do this?" the Kyuubi asked. Naruto nodded and stepped in front of the seal. With one tug, he unleashed the seal. Chakra flooded his body and nearly controlled him. Thanks to Naruto's own stubbornness and nature chakra, he managed to temper it and channel it within his body for now. He shoved all of it through his arms and created a tightly condensed red orb in his palm. The orb shrieked loudly as the energy within it tried to escape. Naruto nodded satisfied, turned to see Sasuke channel a huge thunderbolt within his body, causing him to crackle and glow with power. "Well, Dobi, one more time. You're on tem." Both men charged at near light speed and sent their right arms forwards. Idai Kirin Chidori. Akuma no Rasenkaze. Red orb crashed with blue spear. For a moment just silence. A huge explosion and a flash of light blinded everyone. The flash was then followed with a large shock wave that demolished everything, destroying everything in the 5 elements continent. The only thing anyone saw was a blinding light before a shock wave killed them. The energy in the blast was so great that it undid everything in the world. The Shinigami himself was ripped apart and the souls inside of him were eviscerated. The world rumbled and then split into 3 dimensions. A giant hole in the sky and the ground opened up and began to draw things inside of it. At the center, Naruto could feel himself been sucked downwards while Sasuke was drawn upwards. Their eyes met one last time before vanishing. A tear fell down from his face as he saw the hole close in after him. "Goodbye, world." Naruto distantly felt himself crash before darkness overtook him. The world of Hueco Mundo is what many people would come to deem as purgatory, a place where you will stay until you were judged pure enough to get to heaven. Those that live in Hueco Mundo would say this. If this is purgatory, then heaven better be paradise. Hueco Mundo is nothing more than a forsaken place where creature called hollows roam. They are souls consumed by their own misery and have taken to eating their own kind and other souls in order to fill up the emptiness they feel constantly. It is truly a dog-eat-dog world where if you are not strong enough, you will be eaten. The world of Hueco Mundo is divided into 2 areas: the barren desert of the above where many of the weaker hollows live and prey on each other, and the Manos forest where the strongest hollows thrive. In the desert area of Hueco Mundo, there is a structure called Las Noches, home of the king of Hueco Mundo. However, in the Manos forest, the god of Hueco Mundo lives, living peacefully in the midst of powerful hollows of all 3 Manos class. He lives in the place called Eden, a large beautiful garden in the middle of the Manos forest. However, if you trespass the area, any hollow knows that their life is forfeit no matter how strong they were. 2 Vastro lords had tried to ravage Eden. However, only one escaped before a large glowing red arm grabbed him and dragged him back to Eden, clawing and screaming before he was silenced. No hollow knew the being's true name, so they call him El Diablo. Tia Harribel panted as she ran through the forest searching for a way to escape. Trailing behind her was a group of hollows, low Ajuka's class, trying to catch her. While she was near Vastro Lord class, she had been almost killed by another Vastro Lord and was running for safety. She had refused that hollow's demand of joining his group as she saw it as pointless. There was no reason to rule Hueco Mundo. Many hollows live by their instincts only, little more than animals, and Jillian's have the brainpower of a child. She hopped up on a branch and ducked another Sero. She looked forward and kicked down on an eagle-like hollow, sending it plummeting to the ground. She avoided another one's large hand and used him to hide from her pursuers. P.O., get back. The giant hollow turned around and saw where he was. With remarkable speed for one so large, he fled the area, leaving Harribel panting on the grass. Wait, grass. She looked up in horror to see a huge garden full of beautiful trees and flowers. The place was nearly glowing with life. Flowers of all kinds were artfully placed to form rings around the circular clearing. Trees branch out their limbs and created small places of shade for one to rest. From their branches were delectable-looking fruits, ripe for the picking. It was a beautiful place. More beautiful than anything Harribel saw in her time in Hueco Mundo. However, she knew this place. It was the home of the god, El Diablo. Hello. Harribel jumped nearly 30 feet in the air into the topmost branches of a nearby maple tree. She looked down to see a young man around 21 laughing merrily at her. She noticed that he looked completely human, down to the simple clothes that he wore. He wore a floppy straw hat, covering his spiky blonde hair, and in his hand was a worn shovel. My, aren't you jumpy? Come on down. You look tired. His sweat dropped when she saw her frantically shake her head. Oh wait, you're afraid that El Diablo will come and devour you. Well, have no fear. El Diablo won't hurt you as long as you're with me. Harribel paused for a second before jumping down the tree in front of Naruto. Naruto chuckled at Harribel. That's better. Come with me. You look like you need a drink, young one. Harribel was too tired to refuse and so followed him to a small humble house in the middle of the garden. Towering over the house and even the garden was a humongous bonsai trees. Harribel looked up at it awed. Her guide chuckled. Never seen one so big, huh? Can't blame you, that tree is more than 10,000 years old. It's the first tree that I planted. Years of tender care made it grow into this beauty, the guide said. Harribel looked at her guide astonished. He looked no more than 200 years at most. The man opened the door for her and motioned her inside. The inside of the humble home was a simple cot, small kitchen, and a living area. Her guide smiled reassuringly at her. Go on, you can rest on the cot. I'll whip up something for you when you wake up. Harribel nodded gratefully. Thank you, sir. Call me Naruto. Naruto-san. She soon slipped into gentle sleep like she had never known before. All of the voices within her head had silenced as she fell into the comforting blackness. Naruto chuckled and began munching on a Fuji apple from his garden. His eyes roamed around the room searching for his little buddy. A scratch was heard from under the cot. Naruto smiled as he saw a glimpse of red. Come out, Kit, I know you're there. A small fox the size of a puppy came out from under the cot. After the explosion, nearly all the chakra left the Biju, leaving a small fox. This fox had no memories of his past life and acted like a child, even to the point of calling Naruto, Tusen, to Naruto's delight. Ah, Tusen, how can you see me? I am all-knowing little one, Naruto said. He laughed at the look of dismay on Kit's face. No, you're not. Someday I'll find out the secrets to your tricks, Tusen. Then I'll play pranks on you. Oh, the horror, Naruto cried, but not now. We have a guest. Kit turned to see Harribel sleeping on the cot. He smiled mischievously and hopped to Harribel's side. He gently tickled her nose with his tail, trying to stifle his giggle. SNGGGURGGRHGRH. A loud snort erupted from Harribel, sending Naruto and Kit into a fit of quiet giggles. After they stopped, Kit ran outside and took Naruto's straw hat. Naruto yelped indignantly and chased Kit. Give that back, you scamp. Try it, old man. I bet your old bones will tire out before me. Why, you little? Kit laughed in glee as Naruto dived towards him and landed ungracefully in a heap of tangled limbs. You missed, Tucson. Naruto smiled and chased his son throughout Eden, enjoying the time he had with his only friend in this barren world. Harribel stretched and looked out the window near her cot to see the beautiful garden. She turned around to see that a tray was waiting for her. She picked it up and saw a pot of tea and some small dumplings. She hesitantly took a bite and was surprised at how sweet and fresh it tasted. She tried the tea and it was delicious as well. After more than hundreds of years eating only hollows and absorbing Reiatsu, it took great willpower not to devour the sweet treats like a beast's. She ate them as calmly as she could and began looking around. She noticed Naruto and Kit sleeping peacefully in a corner. On the tip of Naruto's nose, a piece of dust was floating up and down every time he breathed. Harribel smiled and laid the empty tray on the table. She began to look around the house for anything. To her frustration, it seemed the place was spotlessly clean. Nothing was out of place and everything was in place. She sighed and flopped onto the cot. She stared into the ceiling and noticed a small rope on the ceiling. Harribel reached up to the rope and grasped it. Tucson doesn't like people opening that. Harribel whirled around to see a small boy around 7 to 8 looking at her. He had a cheery face and blood-red hair. However, on top of his ears, there were fox ears and had a fox tail. Harribel nodded and let of the rope. The boy smiled. Tucson said to help you because you're our guest. Is there anything you need? The boy asked politely. Harribel shook her head. It's fine, little boy, I'm just a little bored. The boy pouted. I'm not little, I'm just young, and my name's Kit Uzumaki. Well, I'm Tia Harribel. The boy smiled and offered his hand. Nice to meet you, Harribel Nichan. And you as well. Kit smiled. He turned to where Naruto was still asleep and giggled. Harribel watched as Kit climbed up on the table and took a moment to judge his distance. He ran across the table and launched himself at Naruto. Naruto didn't even seem to wake, but he easily tossed Kit aside to the cot. Kit bounced off the cot and landed hard on his butt. Still can't do it. Nice of you to wake me up, little buddy, Naruto said softly. He stood up and stretched. He looked around and saw Harribel looking at him. Naruto smiled. Well, our guest is up as well. How are you doing, Harribel-chan? Better, Naruto-san, Harribel said softly. Naruto smiled. Well, that's good, Naruto said happily. Speaking of which, Kit, the Fuji apples are now ripe. Do want to go pick them? Kit nodded excitedly. Yes, finally. He bolted away outside and came back holding a large basket nearly the size of himself. Kit tripped on his feet and trapped himself under the basket. Help, Tucson, it's dark. Naruto chuckled at the antics of his son and lifted the basket off of him. Naruto gently picked Kit up and placed him on his shoulder. Kit giggled and wrapped his arms around Naruto's head. Harribel Nichan, do you want to help us pick apples? Kit called. Harribel hesitated a moment before nodding. Kit gave a small cheer as the three of them went out of the house. Harribel was still in awe as the three traveled through the huge garden. Groves of trees and large grounds devoted to different fruit. Kit was the self-proclaimed tour guide as he showed Harribel all the different plants. Over there are the mikan trees. The outside is not good to eat, but once you peel them, they are so juicy and sweet. They're Tucson's favorite fruit. I like the Fuji apples better though, Kit said excitedly. Naruto plucked off a mikan and quickly peeled the outside. He divided the fruit into 3 and shared it. Harribel stared at the fruit in confusion and watched as Naruto and Kit ate a piece. Sugoi, so good. Harribel took a slice and popped it in her mouth. She nearly screamed in delight on how good it tasted. This is very good. No one could say no to a mikan. Naruto laughed at Kit's statement. Harribel smiled and giggled softly. The two were a touching pair. They lived in paradise in this place of beauty. Harribel knew that in all of years as a hollow, she had never known such beauty and peace like in this place. Even the voice in her head had been silenced. Tucson, someone's stealing the apples. Naruto and Harribel turned to see a large area of the garden withering and dying. Several hollows were plundering the fruit they had worked so hard on growing. Many of the flowers were trampled and the fruit wasted. Whole trees were torn apart as well. Harribel noticed that Kid was crying while Naruto's face turned as harsh as stone and his kind blue eyes turned as cold as ice. A hollow carrying an axe laughed loudly as he chopped down a Fuji apple tree. Ha, so this is Eden, the forbidden garden. There's nothing here except plants. But I shall make this a part of my own kingdom. The hollow laughed as he trampled on the fruit spilled from the trees. Kid wailed in sorrow at the wasted fruit. His cry caused all the hollows to turn towards them. The lead hollow laughed loudly. Well, Tia Harribel, I didn't think you'd be alive after my soldiers told me you were here. No matter, have you changed your mind yet? You know my answer, buffoon. The hollow laughed before turning to Naruto and Kit. And who may you two be? Naruto glared at Baragon with such intensity that the hollow stumbled. Naruto turned his attention from him to Kit. He gently pulled Kit off his shoulders and gave him to Harribel. Take him a good distance from here, Harribel. I'm not sure I can hold back much. Harribel nodded and ran away carrying Kit. In her arms Kit sniffled and dried his tears. On his face was an uncharacteristically grim smile on his face. Those guys won't leave here alive. Tusen's really mad now. Just as he said that, the most powerful Reiatsu she had ever felt flooded the whole garden. She looked back to where Naruto was to see the whole area bathed in red light. Wind began whipping around the garden, creating a giant tornado where Naruto was. The Reiatsu exploded and Harribel was knocked down by the shock wave. She looked in awe at the red-furred creature Naruto had become. Kit giggled. Tusen finally unlocked the first stage of his power. El Hombre Zoro. Barragan Luzenbarn was not an easy man to terrify. He was known far and wide as the most powerful Vastro Lord to roam Hueco Mundo and had created an army by himself. However, before him was no ordinary hollow. It was more powerful than anything he had ever felt. His Respira seemed to not affect him at all. Not even touching him at all. Barragan shivered as the being stared at him. The young man that was before him had transformed into a monster. Nearly 8 feet tall, covered in reddish fur, and had 3 tails swinging behind. Monster snarled loudly before roaring. Hollow, you have stepped in the realm of El Diablo. Your life and the ones that follow you are now forfeit. Barragan flinched as the monster vanished. Shrieks and cries all around him silenced. He looked around and saw that all of his followers were torn apart and devoured by the fox. Barragan saw the fox again ripping off the head of his follower. El Diablo threw away the vanishing corpse and turned his attention back to Barragan. You have been judged. You have been found wanting. You shall have justice. Barragan barely avoided a strike from El Diablo. He turned tail and ran. However, his large glowing tail wrapped around him and began to drag him back. Barragan roared and swung his axe. The axe missed and 3 tails impaled him. Barragan charged up a Sero and shot at El Diablo. The beam didn't scratch him at all. Die. Barragan didn't even have time to scream when he felt his head ripped apart to shreds. Naruto watched as Kit fell asleep on the cot. On the table were the few Fuji apples they had managed to recover. All the other ruined fruit had been replanted in the hopes of growing back into the beautiful trees they once were. Naruto gently tucked in the blanket and turned back to Harribel. Thank you. I hate using that form. I'm sorry you have to see it. No, it's fine, Naruto-san. However, I want to thank you, and if it's not too much to ask, I want to ask you if you could teach me how to become stronger. Naruto's eyes narrowed. And what do you plan to do if you gain such strength? What will you do if I decide to teach you? I want to create a place like this. A place where hollows could stop preying on one another and cooperate. Someplace like this. Naruto felt the emotion in Harribel's voice. He chuckled. This place must have a great deal of influence on you. More than anything else. Naruto nodded. Then I will train you and help you on your dream. All that I ask is that you stay with us for a while longer before you go. Harribel smiled. There's no place that I would rather be, Naruto-sama. She laid her head against Naruto's shoulder. Naruto smiled and embraced her in a gentle hug. It has been too long since he had spoken with someone aside from Kit. It was good to gain new company. Harribel Nichan. Tusen says to wake up. It's time for training. Harribel groaned and tried to push Kit away. Leave me alone, you tiny terror. Too early. Harribel Nichan, wake up. Harribel groaned and tried to ignore the noise. Kit frowned and left the room. Harribel sighed and tried to snuggle deeper into her bed. Clank. Harribel jumped up in shock at the sudden noise and fell out of bed. She looked up to see Kit holding up 2 large pots. He banged them together and giggled. Up we go, Snorri Nichan. You little. Kit giggled and ran out of the house with Harribel hot on heels. He morphed into a fox kid and ran beneath Naruto's legs. Harribel was running too fast for her to stop and crashed into Naruto. They tumbled head over heels in a tangled heap. Kit snickered as Naruto stood up, covered with mud. Kit, why? 'Cause it's fun. Naruto sighed. Go back in the garden and water the bamboo shoots. You have too much energy. Hi Tusen. Kit picked up a watering pail and ran off, leaving Harribel and Naruto alone. Naruto glanced at Harribel quickly, trying to determine her current abilities. Harribel, what level are you? Ijuka's, Naruto-sensei. So you still have a little more to go, Naruto mused. He walked around her and examined the hole on her chest. She stood to attention as Naruto circled her several more times. Well, Harribel, it looks like you are close to becoming a Vastro Lord. So instead of going up straight to the Manos forest and just devouring hollows left and right, I'm going to explain the nature of Reiatsu. Harribel nodded and sat on the grass, paying rapt attention to Naruto's lecture. Now, as of now, the world is divided into 3 dimensions. Hueco Mundo, Soul Society, and the human world. Now, like all things in life, Reiatsu has two sides. Positive and negative, light and dark, yin and yang. Now, while the human world is a perfect blend of yin and yang, Soul Society and Hueco Mundo are not. Soul Society is mostly possessed of the yin side of Reiatsu, as for many of the souls there have been laid to rest peacefully. Hueco Mundo on the other hand is dominantly possessed of the yang side of Reiatsu. It is due to the fact that these souls are not at rest and are bound to themselves, chained in a sense. Now the nature of Reiatsu depends on the kind of abilities you are able to possess. Shinigami, trained in the yin arts as I call them, focus on the four major arts. Zanjutsu, the art of the sword, Hakuda, hand-to-hand combat, Ho-Ho, flash stepping, and Kido, art of magic. Now these arts are yin-based and focus on the having the knowledge to use them. One cannot be ignorant of these arts to use them. For hollows, once we are able to absorb enough hollows, we are able to fight better. Now there are no certain names for these arts as we fight by instinct mostly. We gain faster and match the art of Ho-Ho. We use Seros and different versions of it to counter Kido. We gain the power to overcome Zanjutsu and Hakuda. In conclusion, we learn everything by instinct and with our bodies, the essence of yang. Now there are rare occasions that yin and yang can merge. One method is if you eat enough shinigamis that you gain a sizable amount of yin reiatsu or rip off part of your mask and risking your life, you can access the yin reiatsu. As a result, you not only exponentially stronger but you have the potential to merge both the hollow instincts with the shinigami knowledge. The same goes with shinigamis. If they are able to unlock the hidden hollow within themselves, they are gain an amazing power, Naruto explained. Now for your case, ripping off your mask is foolhardy and stupid as risking your own existence will probably cause you to forget yourself and cause you to become a beast yourself, Naruto said. On the other hand, killing a couple of captains means having to go to Soul Society, which is not an option. That comes to my third option. I forcibly rip off your mask and shove yin reiatsu straight into yourself, Naruto explained. However, I will only do that after you become a Vastro Lord to a level of my satisfaction. When you become a Vastro Lord, you will have complete dominance of your mind and become as close to a human as you can. Hypothetically, if you eat enough souls, your whole will vanish. However, that is an impossible amount, so we won't even go there, Naruto said. Are you following? Harribel nodded. So before anything, I have to become a Vastro Lord first. Naruto nodded. Ripping off your mask before then would be just irresponsible. Now the best way is to eat as many hollows as you can. Once I learn how strong you are, I will accompany you to the Manos forest and watch you eat Ajukas after Ajukas. Understand? Hi sensei. Good. Now come at me. Harribel crouched and swung at Naruto with her blade-like fin. Naruto easily grasped it and threw her away. Harribel rolled on the ground and charged at Naruto again. However, she purposely stabbed into the ground and swung around to throw several kicks at Naruto. Naruto calmly grabbed her legs and purposely lifted her up before slamming her to the ground. Harribel's vision was filled with stars, but she managed to roll out of the way of Naruto's stomp. She jumped to her feet and sent several slashes with her blade. Naruto easily dodged them and sent two thunderous punches into her abdomen. Harribel bent backwards, completely winded. Another knee from Naruto caused her to collapse. You are very close to Vastro Lord level judging by your speed and power. But you fight instinctively. Watch and observe your opponent. Feel him out first and hold back. Do not always go all out like a brainless bull, Naruto said. Be like the wind, free and gentle, but once you lock onto their weakness, be like a storm. Powerful and destructive. Harribel nodded and stood up. She sent several slashes and watched as Naruto loved to keep at least 1 foot on the ground. She sent a high slash and Naruto ducked in time for her feet to slam into his face. Naruto flipped several times before standing back up. That's the way, Naruto said. Harribel was astonished that she didn't even leave a mark. Now let's go. Harribel nodded and charged her sensei once again, fully intent on making Naruto bleed or bruise at least once. Hours later, Harribel panted and flopped onto the grass, completely out of energy. She didn't even notice Kit jumping up and down excitedly on her back. Nay Tusen, can Harribel Nichan play with me now? Yes she can, Naruto said. Harribel shot a glare at Naruto as Kit tugged on her leg. She refused to move, but Kit began to drag her away unceremoniously. Have fun you two. Harribel would have screamed at him if she had the energy. Since she did not, she endured Kit tugging her through the grasses of Eden. At least it was soft. Splash, Harribel gasped and instinctively stood up. She looked around to see that she was in a crystal-clear spring covered with water lilies. A small waterfall kept the water moving. Around her, Kid was happily floating around. You couldn't give me a warning. You were really tired. How do you feel now? Harribel was about to snap back when she realized she felt much better. Many of the bruises and scrapes on her body were gently fading away as she watched. Harribel sat down and began to relax and enjoy the healing of the spring peacefully. This feels amazing, Kid nodded. Whenever I feel tired or sad, I go to this place. Tucson says that it will help if you are feeling tired or sad. Harribel murmured her thanks and sat deeper in the water. Unknown to her, the spring was created through the means of using a perfect blend of Reiatsu, so while she was absorbing the Yang Reiatsu, she was also absorbing Yin. Kid noticed that Harribel began to look more human but decided not to comment on it while she was resting. It was just his imagination. Right. Harribel slowly stepped out of the spring and shook herself. She began to walk when she noticed how different she felt. She looked down and noticed that her white hollow skin was no more. She had a deep ebony skin and instead of a fin-like blades on her arms, she had human hands. She hurried to the spring where she saw her mask had separated, revealing a half her human face. She patted her body and noticed that her hollow hole was smaller. Hey Harribel, are you? What the? Harribel turned to see Naruto completely dumbstruck. To Naruto's credit, the hollow that he had just taught before was now an human-like hollow. Not only that but one that was nearly like an Arankar. Her power levels had clearly gone beyond Ijuka's level and just a hair below Vastro Lord. Only needed a couple of Ijukas to eat. Naruto quickly walked around her and examined her. It was extremely difficult in that she was nearly human except in a couple of places and those places barely covered her. Wow, I never would have thought that the spring would have affected you in this way. At most just heal you, but to form a more human-like form was much more than I expected. From what I can guess, instead of just passing through, your body absorbed the Yin Reiatsu as well as the Yang, causing you to change. On the upside, when you do become an Arankar, you will have a much larger power boost, Naruto mused. Naruto shrugged. She was an anomaly unlike any he had seen. Does it have to do with the fact that many of my attacks are water-based? Harribel asked. Naruto nodded slowly. It does explain why you absorb the energy of the water so readily, not so much the Yin side of Reiatsu though, Naruto thought. Don't worry about it though. As far as I can tell, you are fine and better than before. Harribel nodded. So what now? Now, you help me in the garden. It's time to water the cherry blossoms. She automatically caught a pail from Naruto and looked at it confused. Well, come on, hurry up. Hi Naruto-sensei. Harribel soon got used to the rhythm. Every morning, the two of them trained. Not all of it was combat training. Much of it was knowledge only gained by experience and knowledge about emotions. Her sensei was very thorough in the fact that knowledge can overcome immense power. The later afternoon was used up in healing, meditating, helping Naruto and Kid around the garden, and playing with them. It wasn't until the third month that Naruto deemed her ready to hunt other Ijukas and accompanied her to the Manos forest. After her initial nervousness in fighting the strongest Ijukas she could find, it was nearly insultingly easy. Fighting almost daily with Naruto had honed her reflexes, and working in the garden made her much stronger. Combining those gifts with the fact that her mind was razor sharp and she devoured the hollow within minutes. The next 3 hollows were the same and fell under her strength. After she ate the 4th hollow, she felt her Reiatsu collapse and compress along with her form. Her body became human as her hole was completely filled. Her skin became spotless of the white plates she had as a hollow except for a small ring around her neck. However, she could feel herself brimming with power and smiled as she instinctively pointed at a nearby tree. Gran Rey Cero. A huge column of light erupted from her finger and smashed into the tree. The tree rocked before collapsing in a thunderous crash. Harribel smiled and turned around to see her sensei on the ground with a bloody smile and a perverted grin. Wake up, Arrow Tucson. Don't rely on your eyes, feel your opponent move and match the rhythm of battle. Naruto flipped to avoid a Cero from Harribel. He jabbed twice at her and sent a strong uppercut into Harribel's abdomen. Harribel rolled with the force and struck Naruto in the jaw. Naruto fell down and spun around and knocked Harribel off of her feet. She tumbled to the ground and rolled out of the way from a vicious heel kick. When she jumped back to her feet, she looked straight into the glowing fist of Naruto. Never lose your footing. Losing it means you die. Harribel nodded as Naruto lowered his fist. She sent a quick kick to the groin and pinned his arms with her knees. She pointed a fist between Naruto's eyes. Naruto smiled. Deception is always an option. Harribel smiled and rolled off of him. Naruto jumped back to his feet but buckled down again. Are you alright, sensei? Just give me a moment, Naruto squeaked. Kami, that had hurt. It was the first time in over 500 years that he had seen stars before his eyes. Harribel giggled as Naruto rolled around in pain. Kit thought it was a game and began rolling around the grass with his father. Harribel chuckled at the scene before her. Both of them were so silly at times. Even though Naruto was older than even Hueco Mundo and no doubt the most powerful person in Hueco Mundo, he acted much like a child. She was about to speak when she felt a large Ryotsu permeate the air. Naruto jumped up to his feet as well when he felt it. It was larger than anything he had felt before in Hueco Mundo in a while. Granted, it was only a fraction compared to Naruto, but it was dangerous enough to take caution. Kit, stick close to me at all times, Naruto ordered. Kit nodded and jumped onto Naruto's shoulder. Harribel closed her eyes and tried to find the source of it. However, the Ryotsu she felt was odd. She looked at her sensei, who nodded. It's a Shinigami, and a powerful one at that. He's most definitely captain class, Naruto said. Stick close to me. Harribel nodded and followed Naruto through Eden. The small group soon came upon the source. A man wearing captain's robes was sitting on the grass and smiling as he ate a mikan. Beside him was an Arankar sleeping on the grass, another running around like a child, and a last one meditating. Who are you for and what do you want? Naruto called. The four turned their attention to Naruto's group. The leader stood up and smiled at Naruto. Hello, friend. I am Aizen and I have come here to seek an audience with one called El Diablo. Do you know where he resides? The man asked politely. Naruto examined the man with a careful eye. The man's Ryotsu was massive for a Shinigami, yet with no trace of hollow, meaning he had most likely mastered all the forms of the Shinigami arts. Yet in his gut, Naruto could feel something wrong with this man. You are looking at him. Now speak your piece. I do not take kindly to people taking the fruits I have cared for, Naruto said. Aizen nodded and respectfully bowed. I am sorry, Diablo-san. I couldn't help myself in trying the mikan. I will say this, they are the most delicious fruit I have ever tasted. Not even in Soul Society can you find such a fruit, Aizen replied courteously. Naruto tipped his head. As of now, I am seeking powerful hollows and beings to aid me in my war against Soul Society and the Spirit King. For too long, Soul Society has been stagnant under the rule of a corrupt council. The Spirit King has no interest in ruling and ignoring us for the sake of entertaining himself. What I wish for is a world where all three worlds can coexist harmoniously, Aizen explained. By using an artifact called the Hogyoku, I will grant hollows sanity from their endless hunger and hopefully rule as the Spirit King in a prosperous manner. Naruto chuckled inside. The fool thought he could change hollows. Their sanity were warped by no fault of their own. However, Naruto was getting excited for such a huge tumult that may involve this Spirit King he's heard so little about. Might I ask if you know who the Spirit King is? Aizen shrugged. Information about him is limited, but he is named Sasuke Uchiha. Everyone was knocked down by the huge Ryotsu that came crashing down on them. Even Aizen was forced to kneel by the immense pressure Naruto was creating. It felt as if the whole world was on his shoulder. He strained his head to see Naruto laughing maniacally and a white mask resembling a fox covering half of his face. Ahahahahahahahahaha. At last, after 25,000 years, we can finish our battle. All these years you spent pampered in that cozy little dimension and creating your grandiose society. I will crush it all and we shall finish our last battle. Naruto turned to Aizen and released his full form. He was nearly 8 feet tall and incredibly muscular. On his back was a sack of wind and his blonde hair formed a mane that fell down past his shoulder. In his right hand was a massive sword nearly 7 feet long and clasped in his left was the opening of the sack. Another burst of Ryotsu was released as Kit turned into a massive, white, 9-tailed fox. Aizen, I shall join you, but I want Sasuke for myself. This world shall shake again when us gods battle once again. Well, my dear Aspada, let us begin. He sipped his tea. Many of the others sipped theirs as well. Sprrrllt. Aizen's eye twitched as he felt warm liquid run down the side of his face and stain his white robes. He turned to see Naruto looking at his tea in disgust. Aizen-chan, What the fucking hell is this shit? Naruto bellowed. He handed the cup to Kit. Kit sniffed at the cup and retched. Yeah, Aizen. Are you trying to poison Tucson? Harribel stifled a giggle as Aizen tried to contain his temper. Near him, a Shinigami named Ichimaru Jin smiled widely while another Shinigami, Kanami Tosen, turned to Naruto with a frown on his face. Aizen-sama was courteous enough to make us tea. Do not insult this gift with such trifling opinions. Bah. You really act as if you have a stick shoved up your ass sometimes. Really, unlike you, I am important so I have a right to make such comments. Yeah, just stand there and kiss ass like you usually do, Blindy-chan, Kit said. Aizen took a deep breath and remained calm as he watched Naruto take everyone's tea and throw it out the window, aided by an enthusiastic Kit. He calmly reminded himself that he needed Naruto and Kit. They are powerful. We need them, Aizen whispered as a vein popped out of his forehead. Jin stifled another giggle at the sight of Aizen's vein. Here ya go. Fresh. Good tea for all. Yeah, good tea. Aizen looked down at the cup and grudgingly accepted that his tea looked like crap compared to Naruto. Instead of the murky brown, the tea in front of him was a gentle, soothing green. He sipped it and felt immediately calm and tranquil. See, Aizen-chan. You can't make tea while plotting for world domination. It makes it all a murky brown color. Like diarrhea, Jin couldn't take it anymore and began rolling on the ground laughing with tears coming out of his eyes. Harribel, Zolo, and Grimjow also tried to hide their laughter. Kid, that's not a very good thing to say. I mean, little Aizen tried his best but he shouldn't have multitasked. But you agreed, right Tucson? It looked like the toilet after you ate ramen. Your ramen, Kid. How could you desecrate ramen like that? Ahem, as I was trying to say before I was rudely interrupted by Naruto. No thanks necessary. With Soul Society weakened by the recent affair with the Bounce and the Amagai fiasco, we shall strike by first going to Karakura Town, where several Shinigamis have been residing, most prominently Urahara Kazuki, Yoruichi Shifuin, Tessai Tsukabishi, Isshin Kurosaki, and his son Ichigo Kurosaki. We shall strike first in order to draw captains of Soul Society away. While they are there, several others shall travel straight to Soul Society and cause as much havoc as they can before returning back to Hueco Mundo. Naruto, Harribel, and Zolo shall be the ones to go to Soul Society. The remaining ones shall be split into two teams. One team for Karakura and the other for Hueco Mundo in case of any Shinigamis trying to scout Hueco Mundo. Ulquiorra, Yami, you two shall go to Karakura Town in order to scout the strength and location of Ichigo Kurosaki. Kill the people in your way if needed, Aizen ordered. As for now, that is all. You are all dismissed. The Aspada soon cleared the room and went about their own business. Once they were alone, Naruto confronted Aizen and glared at him. I thought you said that you would leave the innocent people alive out of this war. Our war is with the Shinigamis only. They do not need to be involved. I tried, but out of the plans I had formulated, this is the best way, Aizen said calmly. He sweated inside. He did not want to anger Naruto. He had no doubt that Naruto can overpower him any time he desired, yet only Naruto would be able to challenge the Spirit King. Also, losing Naruto would mean losing Harribel, Zolo, and even Stark as well. After a long moment, Naruto nodded and left Aizen. Remember this, Aizen. We fight to change the system of Soul Society and Hueco Mundo, not for you to rule us, Naruto said. Aizen watched Naruto walk out of the room. He sighed as went back to his chair and began to form another plan. He had no doubt that with Naruto, he would win the war. However, after the war, Naruto shall be disposed of as well as the other hollows and he alone shall rule Soul Society. Harribel Nichan. Harribel turned from her fracciones and caught him in her arms. Kit snuggled against her while Naruto chuckled. You haven't played with him for a long time, he was getting lonely. Naruto took a quick glance at her. Upon becoming an Arrancar due to the Hogyoku, her body had become more like a human than any other Arrancar. Her hole had been filled completely and the voices within her head were gone. She had been labeled as the Primera Aspada due to her being more powerful than any of the other Aspada. I'm sorry, Naruto-sensei, I've been busy with my fracciones, Harribel explained. There's more to life than training though. You wouldn't like to be like Zolo, Naruto said. Harribel nodded, remembering the solemn Arrancar Naruto had recruited. Unlike any of the other Arrancar, he was turned into one by Naruto hundreds of years before them. He was also Naruto's first apprentice. He was numbered the Segunda Aspada because he didn't like to be hampered with the responsibility of being the Primera. Yeah, Nichan. Don't be like Marimo. Harribel giggled and hugged Kit. Of course not, my adorable Otuto. Naruto turned to her Fracciones who were patiently waiting on Harribel. He snickered quietly and an evil look appeared on his face. Hey Harribel, why don't you take care of Kit for the afternoon? I'll train your Fracciones for you, Naruto said. Harribel noticed the look on her sensei's face and nodded. Hi sensei. Just don't be too rough on them. They aren't like me or Zolo, Harribel warned. Naruto nodded. Of course. Harribel left and carried Kit away with her, praying for Kami's mercy for her subordinates. Naruto turned to Harribel's Fracciones with an evil smile on his face. They shuddered unconsciously as his smile widened. Now who knows how to play dodgeball? Mila Rose panted as she watched Naruto sigh disappointed. Near her, Sunday to Sunday and Apache were about ready to collapse. All of them were in their released forms, yet they had not even scratched Naruto. Every Sero or technique they had thrown at him were somehow avoided or easily blocked. Not even their best weapon could hurt him. Naruto shook and whacked the monstrosity he was sitting on. Bad Fluffy. The creature gave a pitiful whine before settling down again. None of the Fracciones could believe that someone had tamed alone. The creature was like a berserker and refused to listen to anyone. Now let me explain what you ladies were doing wrong. You assumed that at the very least you would be able to put a scratch on me, right? Well, you should have abandoned that thought and should have focused on cornering me using Seros, as I am too fast for you to handle in close combat. Also learn how to control your pet better. It is a combination of you three, so focus on working and thinking together, you imbeciles. With a solid punch, alone dissipated into the three Fracciones. All of them reverted back to their Arrancar forms and fell to the ground exhausted. Oh, are you finally done, sensei? Naruto looked to see Harribel carrying Kit in her arms, fast asleep. Naruto nodded and placed Kit in his own arms. Just finished. Two of them bicker so much, it's surprising to see that they can work together. Harribel nodded. I suppose you told them to work on their teamwork. You know it, so train them better and don't hold back. Sunday to Sunday, Apache, Mila rose. Stand up, Harribel barked. Naruto watched in amusement as the three Fracciones stood straight at attention. Harribel took a moment to look at them before speaking again. Thank Naruto-sensei for the lesson, Harribel ordered. The three Arrancars bowed in unison at Naruto. Arigato Naruto-sama. Naruto smiled. It was a pleasure training with you. Remember what I said. When in battle, trust in yourself as well as your comrades. Working in a team gives you a greater chance of surviving to fight another day. Hi. Naruto vanished in a wisp of sand, leaving a small breeze in his wake. Harribel sighed. He always loved to showboat around people. She turned back to her own Fracciones and smiled. Good job for today. Rest and be ready to train for tomorrow. Hi. Harribel watched as the three ran back to their quarters without any argument between them. She smiled to herself. Naruto-sensei, you've done it again. Marimo, what did you call me, shrimp? Settle down now. Kit, why don't you play with Lillinette? I'm sure she's not busy, Naruto said, stepping in between the two. Honestly, why did Zoro had to be so sensitive about his green hair? Hi Tucson. Kit bounded away, but not before blowing a raspberry at Zoro. Naruto sighed as he quickly tripped Zoro to prevent him from going after Kit. After all these years and you are still the hothead I remember. I'll cut the little fox into pieces. You already tried and failed miserably. If I recall, Kit ran between your legs and in your haste to cut him, you nearly chopped your two friends off, Naruto said dryly. Zoro shuddered and crossed his legs at the memory. It had been his most shameful day. But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about Aizen. Zoro nodded. Well, come this way, Naruto-senpai. We can talk in my quarters. Naruto nodded and the two walked away to Zoro's quarters. However, both of them were clearly aware of a spy spying on them. Zolo went into the cabinet of his room and pulled out a bottle of sake. He poured some into a saucer and gave it to Naruto. Naruto murmured his thanks and drank it. On to business. Zolo, I want to know whose side you are on, Naruto said. Zolo glanced at him and took a long drink from his sake bottle. You know the answer, Naruto. I'm on your side all the way. I'm only supporting Aizen because of you, sensei. Naruto nodded. Then you suspect that Aizen will betray us once all of this is over and he's the king, right? Zolo nodded. I have. However, I think we can persuade Stark and Grimmjow to our side as well as Jin. Jin? Why Jin? Behind that perpetual smile, I can sometimes see his red eyes glare at Aizen in a way a dog glares at his master. So you think Jin is chained into service by Aizen? Zolo nodded. Stark hates to fight and his beliefs are more in line with ours. Grimjow hates Tosin, so if we can promise him power and a battle with Tosin, he'll join us. What I'm worried about is that not all the people in Soul Society are evil. I just despise the system. Yes, hollows naturally eat souls. However, it would be best to contain them in Hueco Mundo as best we can. Probably encourage the growth of more Arankars, Naruto said. Zolo gave a harsh chuckle. You know they're never going to allow that, and the only way that hollows will fear going into the human world is if you show yourself as king of Hueco Mundo. Naruto shook his head. That'll never happen. Zamari-Laru began to hurry as fast he could to Las Noches. Aizen-sama needed to know that his prized subordinate along with the top Aspadas were going to betray him. He shoved as much Ryotsu into his legs and forced himself to go as faster. He was so focused on telling Aizen that he was not aware of the area around him. Unfortunately for him, Kid and Lilith were bored and in the area. Nearly 100 yards away, Kid was making the last preparations to a large cannon. Beside him, Lilith giggled excitedly as she loaded the gunpowder into the barrel. Nay, Kid-kun, you think this is going to work? Kid pouted. Of course, Lily-chan. I had it all planned out and Tucson even helped me with this. Kid grunted as he shoved a huge rocket inside the cannon. The rocket was his own special blend of various metals and gunpowder, specially designed for maximum height and light display. Lilith pulled out a fuse and carefully threaded it into the small hole in the cannon. All ready, Kid. Yash, light the fuse, Lily-chan. Hi. Lilith pulled out a match and lit the fuse. The two backed away and watched as the flame traveled down the fuse into the watched excitedly as the flame burned the last of the fuse and went down the hole. FSSSSs. A moment passed followed by several more. Nothing happened, Kid. Can't be, we prepared it correctly. Why don't we give it a kick? That's stupid, Lily-chan. That'll never work. Now let me look down the barrel and see if I properly greased it. Kid hopped over to the mouth of the cannon and looked down. Lily sighed and glared at the cannon. Stupid thing, she muttered and kicked it. Boom. Kid went tumbling backwards as the gunpowder exploded and launching the firework. They watched as the firework slowly gain altitude and begin to spin as it headed to a small dune. Oh no, it's going to hit that dune, Lilith cried. Up, up. The firework slowly edged upwards and soon began to rise drastically. Just as it was going to clear the dune, a blur appeared in front of it. The firework continued its path and slammed into the blur. Kid and Lilith squinted as they watched the firework fly higher into the sky. Wasn't that the weird eye guy? Kid asked. Lilith shrugged. Dunno. He should have had enough sense not to jump in front of a firework. Bang. The firework exploded into a brilliant shower of light. Red, blue, orange, green streams of light painted the sky as multiple rockets within the original firework streamed throughout the dark sky. It's beautiful, Lilith said. Kid smiled. Told ya it would work. Lilith turned to glare at Kid but giggled when she saw his soot-covered face. Kid rolled his eyes at Lilith, not understanding her reaction. Girls are so confusing. Neither of them noticed as Zamari's charred body fell from the sky and landed near them, twitching pitifully. Naruto-sensei. Naruto turned around to see Harribel approaching him. Naruto smiled and sat on the ground. Hey Harribel, what's up? Harribel smiled widely and hugged Naruto. Naruto was confused and hugged Harribel back. Don't you know what today is? Not a clue. It's the 50th year since I met you. Naruto chuckled. Wow, has it been so long? I didn't even notice. You hardly notice anything cause you're having too much fun. Naruto scratched the back of his head. True, true. Anyway, I made something for you, Harribel said. Harribel, you shouldn't have. Naruto replied embarrassed. Harribel shook her head. I know, but it's just a small gift from me for all the things you've done for me, sensei. I hope you appreciate it. Naruto took the package from Harribel and slowly unwrapped it. It was a glass carving of all Kid, Harribel, and himself all under a tree back at Eden. He was stunned at the craftsmanship involved in the beautiful work of art. Even in the dark night of Las Noches, it sparkled brilliantly. It's beautiful, Harribel-chan. Thank you. A loud whistling sound attracted Naruto's attention. He looked up in the sky, his eyes searching. Harribel turned to the sky and watched as a firework exploded into the sky. She smiled as she stared back at Naruto. Naruto blushed as he felt Harribel's hand in his but continued to gently hold her hand as both of them watched the beautiful colors dance throughout the sky. Please review, and as a special treat an omake, shrooms. Kit sniffed as he looked at the mushroom stew he had made. He gave the pot another stir before turning off the stove. Hey Kit, what you doing? Kit turned to see Lillinette standing in the doorway. Kit grimaced and pointed at the pot. Tucson said I had to say sorry to Blindy-chan for what I said. He also said I should make something for him, so I made a mushroom stew out of the mushrooms I found in the cabinet. Smells really good though. Why can't I have some? Lillinette whined. I'll ask Tucson to make some ramen later, but for now, I gots to give this to Tosin. Kit and Lillinette went to Tosin's room and saw no one was there. Kit sighed and left the pot on Tosin's desk and wrote a quick note before leaving. After several minutes, Tosin came into the room and smelled the hearty stew. He felt around and found the note Kit left. Using his hands, he felt the ink on the paper and read it. Tosin. Sorry for the comment I said. I hope you can accept my apology, Kit. That was nice of him, Tosin muttered. He grabbed a spoon and bowl and scooped some of the stew in the bowl. It tasted a bit unusual. It soon passed to give way to a blissful, hearty taste. This is delicious. Tosin continued to eat until he was completely full. Hours later. Now my Aspada, let's begin the meeting. Bam! The door to the room banged open to reveal a disheveled Tosin. His blind eyes focused on a nearby pillar and in front of everyone, he hugged it and began to bawl. Aizen-sama, I can finally see. Everything is so colorful and swirly. Especially your large bulbous nose that glows. The Aspada watched as Tosin jumped onto the table and danced in the most peculiar of manner, while preaching about justice and candy cane swords. And sushi. And the color purple. And this random thing consisting of how energy squared is equal to mass times acceleration. Tucson, why's Blindy-chan so weird? I don't know, probably something he ate. Can't be. I gave him a good pot of mushroom stew. Where did you get the mushrooms? In your cabinet in the bathroom. Everyone watched as Naruto collapsed into laughter. Aizen and the other Aspada soon left the room, not eager to join in the insanity. Will you help us? Naruto smiled as the perverted shopkeeper flicked open his fan and hid the bottom of his face. Behind him, 4 people were looking at him smiling. A chance to redeem ourselves and to change the system in Soul Society, a dark-skinned woman said, and another chance at fighting for what's right. I see no reason not to, Kazuki. You can count on the Quincy's support, Naruto-san, a cool aloof man said. He pushed up his glasses and gave Naruto a smile. Yosh, then it is agreed that we'll storm Soul Society with the power of youth. Naruto and the others stared at the last man, a bearded man who was giving the thumbs-up sign with a slightly confused smile. Naruto shuddered at the man and vowed never to give him green spandex. Yar yar Kurosaki-san. If you say it like that, you might as well say it while wearing a green spandex bodysuit and orange leg warmers, Kazuki said. A moment later, everyone in the room was staring at a Urahara, who was a crumpled heap on the ground. Never suggest that ever again, Naruto demanded while emphasizing each word with a stomp to Kazuki's body. Naruto smiled and turned to everyone in the shop. So do we have an accord? The dark-skinned woman smiled playfully and held out her hand. We have an accord. Naruto shook her hand and smiled eagerly. He waved his hand and a spiral opened in thin air. The 4 watched as the spiral widened to reveal a clear pathway back to Hueco Mundo. Naruto jumped in and the circle closed back in with barely a whisper. That was a Garganta, right Kazuki? Hi, but it was unlike any that I have seen. I could swear I felt Kido in it as well. A loud bell was heard. Kazuki smiled and rushed out the room. A customer. The dark-skinned woman shook her head, and we wonder why we were kicked out. Naruto chuckled as he closed the Garganta. They were odd people and reminded him of his old life in Konoha. Kakashi, Shino, Ino, and Shudder, Guy and Lee. He sat on his cot relieved that his friends' souls were still alive and have traveled to new and better life, even if they did not know it. Naruto looked outside of his room and sighed. Las Noches was such a barren place with no life. Only violence and carnage. Hopefully with this new rebellion, he could change it where even the damned could have a place of redemption. Hollows here are not really evil souls. Only lost and confused. Those that were truly evil were sent to the gates of hell and impaled on a stake. A knock on the door disturbed his thoughts. He looked up to see Harribel standing in the doorway. Aizen-san wants a sensei. What for? Aizen detected that someone went into the real world. He knows it was Aspada level and wants answers. Naruto nodded. Seems like I've been found. I'll just make some little lie to please him. He twirled his Zanpakuto and stabbed it in a nearby wall. Harribel watched as the air he stabbed shattered and a low-ranking Arrancar fell to his knees. Naruto pulled out his Zanpakuto out of the Arrancar's head and watched as the Arrancar dissipated into the atmosphere. There goes Aizen's little spy. Silly Shinigami. He should know that you can't trick a fox, Naruto muttered. He sheathed his Zanpakuto and walked out of the room, Harribel following closely behind him. Naruto took a glance at Harribel behind him. She averted her eyes and Naruto thought he saw a faint redness in her cheeks before it vanished. You alright, Harribel? Hi sensei. Just a bit worried. Do you think Aizen has spies all around us? I didn't notice the spy that was just there. Naruto frowned. Well, you should have. Even if we're supposedly among allies, keep on your guard. That last guard was radiating Ryotsu when he saw me enter my room. I suggest you start meditating more from now on. Hi sensei. Naruto opened the door to the throne room and ushered Harribel in. They were the last ones to arrive. Harribel took her place near the head of the table at Aizen's right side. Naruto just jumped on the table itself and sat on the table, directly facing Aizen. Well, now that we are all here, I want to know why one of you had the need to go into the real world. I specifically said not to go into the real world as we cannot reveal ourselves until the time is right, Aizen said coldly. And I'd like to know now. The last word was emphasized with a large burst of Ryotsu that nearly flattened all the Aspada. Naruto shrugged it off easily and smiled. Gomen Aizen-chan. I went into the real world to pick up a gift for my son. It's his birthday today, Naruto said. Aizen glared at Naruto. Do you enjoy disobeying me at every turn, Namikaze? Naruto glared at Aizen's cold tone and bared his fangs. Unintentionally, wisps of red energy began to come out of Naruto. And what is that supposed to mean, Aizen? Our deal was that as long as you give me Sasuke, I would help you. I never said I was your subordinate, did I? The two glared at each other until a squeal of delight echoed the empty hallways. The door burst open to reveal Kit riding a bicycle. He jumped off it and scrambled to his father and tackled Naruto off the table. Kit screamed. Naruto chuckled. I told you I didn't forget your birthday, Kit. Now run along. I'll race you later, Naruto said. Kit nodded and hopped on his bicycle. I'll beat you now, Tucson, Kit yelled as he rode out. Naruto chuckled and returned back to glaring at Aizen. Now Aizen, do not forget that I can defeat you with little effort on my own, or should I remind you again? Las Noches began to rumble as Naruto started to unlock his Ryotsu. Nearly every Aspada was flattened against the table gasping for breath as well as Jin and Tosen. Naruto chuckled darkly and released even more. His Ryotsu began to condense into a red fox that snarled at Aizen angrily. The fox gave a loud howl before vanishing. The Aspada took a breath of relief as the Ryotsu vanished. Naruto jumped off the table and glared at Aizen. Remember Aizen, you need me more than I need you. I created this world and I can most certainly take you out. Naruto vanished in thin air. The loss of matter created a vacuum and resulted in a large sonic boom that knocked every Aspada out of their seat along with Aizen. While everyone stood back to their feet, only Harribel spotted the expression of pure hate on Aizen's face before it vanished into an expressionless mask. Soul Society, 3 hours later. Well, my friend, do you fold? Not likely. I know what's on the line. Naruto shook his head at the man. You really would bet your Zanpakuto for something like this? Naruto held up a mint copy of the first Icha Icha novel, signed by the author. The man nodded eagerly. Every Icha Icha novel have been found except the legendary first copy. No one has ever even seen one before, the man said. I would bet old man Yama's Zanpakuto if I could. Naruto sighed. Don't bet your Zanpakuto, bet that flowery kimono and hat instead, Shunsui Kiraku. Kiraku nodded eagerly and threw his jacket on the table. Beside him, his friend Jishiro Yukitaki sighed as well. My friend, you really put those books into high regard even though they are just mindless smut. Kiraku smirked at his friend. You're only saying that because you can't finish one without passing out. My, I'm afraid that is irrelevant, Shunsui, since that I am sure that you will all lose. All three men turned to Retsu Unohana, who was smiling in a creepy manner. Naruto shuddered. So, show cards? Yeah. All four of them laid out their hands. Jishiro had 3 of a kind. Retsu with a full house. Shunsui had 4 of a kind while Naruto had a royal flush. The two captains' sweat dropped as Shunsui rolled around the ground while streams of tears flew from his eyes. Naruto sighed as he collected the winnings: medical herbs, a bonsai plant, and of course the flowery jacket and hat. Naruto glanced at the book on the table. Damn my good nature, Naruto muttered and tossed the book in Shunsui's lap. He looked down and squealed in delight. He opened the book and huddled in a corner. Yukitaki's sweat dropped and tapped Shunsui on his shoulder. Shunsui growled at Yukitaki and snapped at his hand with his teeth. No one steals the precious, Shunsui snarled and Flash stepped out of the room. Is he going to be okay? Jashiro asked. He'll be fine. I'll see him later when he comes to the emergency room because of blood loss, Retsu said gently. Now Naruto, why exactly are you here again? I'm curious about that too. Not that it isn't great to see our old teacher again, Jashiro said. Old man Yamamoto still thinks you are hiding in Rukongai, despite orders from the Central 46 to capture you at any costs. Well, I just wanted to ask if you are still on board with changing Soul Society? I agree with you, but how can we change Yamamoto? He won't like seeing you revolutionizing Soul Society. The best way I can think of is just to seal him up. I don't want to hurt him, yet we can't have him against us. His strength is needed for Soul Society to thrive, Naruto said. Retsu nodded. Yamamoto-sama is the pillar of strength for many Shinigamis. Killing him would be like killing the hearts and will of many Shinigami. I agree, but I doubt there are any seals able to hold back Yamamoto-sensei. He's just too strong. There are the other arts other than Kido, Naruto said. A very old art called Fuinjutsu would be able to seal him up. I don't like the thought of sealing him up, but if it's for his own good, then so be it, Jashiro said. Then we are in agreement? We are, Naruto-san. Naruto nodded and waved his hand. A spiral opened up to reveal an image of Las Noches. Naruto jumped in and the circle closed after him with nary a whisper of Ryotsu. That was a Garganta, right? Retsu asked. Jashiro nodded. It was unlike anything else I've ever seen, but yes, it was a Garganta. A hell butterfly entered the room and landed on Retsu's hand, delivering a message. Retsu sighed and stood up. I have to go, Jashiro-san. Shunsui's in the emergency room with massive blood loss. Yukitaki chuckled as Retsu exited the room. Some things never change. Harribel sat in her room and stared at her blade. She meticulously wiped the blade and polished it with oil. After checking there were no nicks in the blade, she sat and closed her eyes with the blade in her lap, searching her soul. Harribel. Harribel opened her eyes to see that she was back in Eden. All around her the fruits were in season and the flowers were displaying their brilliant colors. She turned around and under the great bonsai tree, a woman was sitting on a boulder. In her arms she strummed a shamisen. The woman looked up and smiled at Harribel. Harribel smiled back at her as she stepped to her. She sat on the grass and listened as the woman played the shamisen. After a short while, the woman stopped and laughed. For a while, I have been wanting to meet you. Although you are an Arrancar, you are different from many others. Mayhaps it is due to your beloved sensei, Naruto-kun. However, pay attention, I wish to tell you my name. I'd be honored, but is it the time to? Harribel asked. Naruto-sensei told me I needed several visits here before I could hear my Zanpakuto's name. He is right, but I deem you ready to know. Be happy in your knowledge of knowing my name. Harribel opened her eyes and looked down at her blade. She traced the blade and whispered. Flow, Shirayuri. The blade rippled and lengthened to reveal a beautiful naginata nearly 9 feet long. It was white with pale blue streaks across the shaft and blade. The blade had a wave-like pattern engraved while the guard was a perfect 7-petaled lotus. It was a beautiful and deadly weapons. Shirayuri, you are so beautiful. I'm glad you think so, child. Now if you can only say that to your precious Naruto-kun, I would be more pleased. He is a good person and would not care for your dark past as a hollow, Shirayuri said in her head. Now seal me up before someone sees, child. It would not do if someone knows that I exist. Harribel's sword reverted back to its normal form just as Neutra entered the room. Harribel jumped to her feet and glared at Neutra. What do you want, Quinto Aspada? Harribel asked. It was well known that Neutra hated women being stronger than him. The Quinto Aspada smirked. Aizen-sama wants you, Harribel. If I were you, I'd get your precious Naruto-kun before approaching Aizen. He looks pissed. And is that supposed to mean Neutra? Harribel snarled. Are you implying that I only got my position because of Naruto? Neutra smirked. Of course not, Primera. I'm just saying that we have never seen your skills aside from Naruto. How are we to know you deserve the spot? Because Tucson said so. Neutra whirled around to see no one. He twitched when he felt a blade at his throat. The air around Neutra's shoulder rippled and revealed Kit holding a wakizashi at Neutra's throat. Kit gave Harribel a friendly wave before turning back to Neutra. Now Pachi-chan, I suggest you go back to your own hole before I chop this thin neck of yours. Neutra grunted and stepped out of the room. Kit jumped off his shoulder and waved as Neutra left. Kit turned to Harribel and smiled. Harribel Nichan, can we play after you meet with Aizen? Harribel smiled. Of course Otuto. Now go on, I'll meet you later. Kit nodded and morphed back into a fox before running out of the room. Harribel sighed and made her way to Aizen's clenched her Zanpakuto's hilt and tried to clear her thoughts. She took a deep breath and opened the door. Well, Tia Harribel. How are you? Harribel looked up to see Aizen lounging in his throne. Harribel took several steps forward and knelt. Very well Aizen-sama. Aizen nodded. Well Harribel, I wanted to speak to you about Naruto-san. I knew it, Shirayuri yelled. It seems that I have insulted him on more than one occasion. I'd like you to be my messenger and express my apologies. Harribel was surprised but nodded. Hi Aizen-sama. However, it's best if you go to him face to face with ramen. It's his favorite food and will surely placate him. Aizen smiled. Thank you very much, I'll do that. You're dismissed. Harribel nodded and left the room. Aizen glared as Harribel's form left. Behind his throne, Ulquiorra appeared. Did you sense that Ulquiorra? Ulquiorra nodded. Her Ryotsu has increased, and not only that, the sides between Hollow and Shinigami have weakened more so than anyone aside from Naruto. Aizen nodded. Keep an eye on her, I want to know why. Ulquiorra nodded. Aizen sighed. You keep causing me trouble, don't you Uzumaki? His eyes turned red and slid like before reverting back to their calm brown tones. Naruto-kun. Welcome back, Naruto smiled and took off the wide-brimmed hat he wore. Well Kazuki-kun, where are the people you told me about? Hi. They're in here, Kazuki said. Yoruichi, bring them out please. The door opened to reveal several teens. Naruto chuckled at one scowling teen. Urahara smiled and smacked the scowling one in the head with his fan. Itai, what was that for Geta Boshi? Don't be rude. Introduce yourselves to our guest, Naruto Namikaze. Iru Ishida, Inoue Orihime, Sado Yasutora, Rukia Kuchiki, Ichigo Kurosaki. Naruto nodded and looked at Urahara. You're telling me that these are the best of the next generation? Naruto asked. The teens looked at Urahara in shock and pride. They are. A Metro, Bimbo, Giant, Rabbit, and one who looks constantly constipated are the best this town has to offer. Sado placed two giant hands on the shoulder of Ichigo and Rukia, both of them intent on ripping apart the stranger. Naruto frowned when he saw Orihime's face sadden and her eyes start to water. I'm sorry Orihime-san, Naruto said gently. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, but I am concerned if you are strong enough for the upcoming future. Ichigo paused as well as Rukia. What do you mean? Ichigo asked. We're going against Aizen, right? Naruto chuckled darkly as well as Urahara. In a way yes and no. What do you mean? Uryu asked. Naruto glanced at the young Quincy. Well, we're going to change Soul Society itself. A war on Soul Society? Ichigo asked flabbergasted. Naruto shook his head while Urahara chuckled. Think of it this way young Kurosaki, Urahara said in a serious tone. We will be like a doctor and remove the cancerous tumors from Soul Society. The corrupt nobles, the Central 46, and the biggest one of all, Yoruichi explained. We will take down the Spirit King himself, Naruto said smiling. The Spirit King? Rukia asked. A loud crash was heard and everyone turned to see Renji in a tangled mess. He looked up and stared at Naruto. You can't be serious, Renji roared. Naruto smirked. Oh but I am. No one knows anything about him, Rukia protested. Naruto chuckled. True, but only I know who he is. I know practically everything about him little Kuchiki, Naruto said. I was there when the world split into three. I was there when I saw the first hollow. You can say, I am a god. You're insane, Rukia said. Naruto lifted the brim of his hat and stared at Rukia. Am I? Naruto asked. The pressure inside the small shop increased dramatically. Naruto gave a dark chuckle as he continued to increase the amount of Ryotsu he was giving off. One by one, the teens fell to the ground, pinned by Naruto's Ryotsu. Soon only Ichigo was the only one standing, but just barely. Naruto applauded. Well, Kurosaki, you are much better than these teens in terms of power. However, I have only released the first of my 7 restraints. Ichigo's eyes widened in terror. Not only that, this is only a taste of what I can do. So consider this when you make your choice on whose side you are on. Naruto tipped his hat and vanished into thin air. The only sound were the teens panting in relief. Ichigo slumped to the ground and looked at his friends, all of them completely winded. He felt a hand on his shoulder and saw Urahara looking at him seriously. I think it is wise to side with Naruto for this war. This war he is suggesting is bigger than even Aizen himself. Are you sure? Urahara nodded. It is the only way people like us, Quincy's, and Vizards will ever be accepted without fear or regret. I have to say, this chapter was hard to write. It's scattered a bit, but I promise it'll tie in with everything else that will come. Please review smiley face. Hello Naruto-san. I believe you said that you had a pill that would help us increase our Ryotsu? Naruto nodded and gave Aizen a jar full of brightly glowing green pills. Hi, I recently discovered this remedy and have tried it myself. Try it. Aizen nodded and took a pill. He and his followers waited to see anything had happened. Nothing. Naruto looked at the pill confused. That's strange. It should have done something. Maybe it needs time to take effect. Naruto walked away, muttering of why the pill didn't work. Aizen sighed and continued to plot on his throne. 4 hours later, Aizen stood up and smiled at the Aspada gathered around. Now my dear Aspada, let us. Bururururururururururururururururururururururh. All the Aspada looked to see Aizen doubled over and wincing. Aizen gasped as he felt his stomach gargle and rumble violently as if he ate something. He shuddered as he felt that unforgettable feeling as the tremors that started in his stomach began to travel downwards. He flash-stepped to the nearest bathroom and slammed the door shut. Naruto looked at the pills containers and saw the label start to fall. He pulled it off and began to laugh hysterically at the label underneath it. The end. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next part.